like they're lining up. Well, they're excited.
What's up, guys? We're back again. It's the Sons of Mjolnir. Welcome back with your host. I'm Gorgon.
And I am Fat Thor.
So my Marvel stack and my big 2 stack that we read, as you guys know, it's found is getting, my unread stack is getting huge. I'm just really gonna sit down tonight and just power binge through it. I've just been a little behind the last few weeks with all this new house shenanigans. So today we were gonna sit down and talk with you guys about our indies that we've been reading, or I guess not big 2, right? I think everything that's not big 2 these days seems to get lumped under the term indie, regardless of the amount of money behind it or how it starts. So we were really just going to kind of talk about some of those. You got one in particular you want to start off with today, my man?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody on Twitter knows me. I'm the Marvel shill. I'm the Marvel guy. And I will say that I read majority of Marvel. But I do also love indies, and I will say, you know, with my Marvel pulls, I unfortunately don't get a lot of time to go through indies as often as I would like to. But since we were doing this episode, I went back and did some homework, which I was super excited about. So for this, I went out to the shop actually, and I picked up Radiant Black, the first volume, trade paperback.
So good, right?
Dude. So good. Like, we'll get into it in a second, but I also picked up The Closet, and this is by James Tynan. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but
I think it's Tynan. I could be wrong as well, but he did a recent Batman run and a lot of other things. He's
but
awesome.
I picked up The Closet by him, and I actually really enjoyed this one too. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm excited to see where it goes. But going back to Radiant, though, we have to talk a little bit about Radiant. Yes. So Radiant, this is a book that everybody and their mama has been telling me to read for months now, for longer than months.
Shout out to Dereck and the Radiant Black podcast together. Our buddy Dereck, aka Grimace Wayne, aka the writer of What Makes a Man, another indie we'll catch you guys up on later. But those guys convinced me to get this, and I have been hassling Thor ever since to sit down and read this.
Gorgon and Dereck have both been on my shoulders for months telling me, dude, Radiant is so good. And I keep telling them, I know it's great. I just need to take the time to sit down and really devour it. Well, I had that time, and let me tell you, it is even better than these fools make it out to be. Like, I was seriously blown away by how good it was. Not only is it so good, but so I'm from a small town outside of Chicago, not in the city, but I grew up not even 10, 15 minutes from Lockport, Illinois, where the book takes place. And exactly. So when I saw that it was Lockport, I was like, what's I know where that is. And to even break it down even further, so in the story, our main character, Nathan, he moves back to Lockport from LA after going out there to be a writer, and then he comes back home to Lockport. And for me, in my real life, I moved from not Lockport, but an adjacent town to LA, not to be a writer, but just the fact that you have a character that's coming from a hometown right next to mine and the place that I moved to, it just really hit me different. I was like, wow, I am Nathan. I literally felt like I was Nathan. So off the bat, I was already fully on board. And I just the story was great. I loved the kind of modern Power Ranger sort of.
Bro, I have described this comic as Power Rangers metal repeatedly. Yes. And I get people being like, bro, you can't say that when all these banger Power Rangers comics that are out are Power Range metal by Boom. And I'm like, I get that, but am I wrong?
No, absolutely
am I wrong? Not. It's so good.
I 100% agree. And plus too, another thing that I really liked about this book, which I feel it's one of those things that you don't really notice it when it's good, but when it's bad, you really do notice it. And I thought that the dialogue in this book was superbly good. Like, I don't know why, like, just the way that the characters talk to each other and they interact with each other, like, it felt more natural than most books that I read. And I'm not saying that those books don't feel natural either, but like I said, just something about the way that I don't want to mess up his name, Kyle Higgins writes his dialogue. Like, it is just, it literally feels like the way like me and my friends would talk, or like if I was talking to you, if we're talking off screen on the pod, like how we would talk to each other.
It's very down to earth. It's very how do I put it, like modern nomenclature and modern colloquialisms, right?
Mhm.
In one of the more recent episodes, they even say, like, they're like, oh, is this happening? He's like, worse, crypto bros. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I
it's
mean?
very
Like,
modern. Like,
it's and it's so modern in so many fun ways with the dialogue. It's super easy to jump into. Have
mhm.
you read any of the other connecting stories to this from Image?
No, so that's what I was going to get into. So, like I said, I have read volume one now. So
Okay.
I am fully on board. I am in the world, but I have
Okay.
not caught up. So I still
How's
need
the
to read
twist at the
volume
end of the
two.
first volume do you?
Dude,
Right?
I was talking to Dereck. I was texting Dereck when I picked out, like, dude, I just finished issue one and two. And he was like, wait till you get to four. And like I was just talking about with Nathan, like coming from Lockport, I was telling Dereck the same thing. I'm like, dude, like I am Nathan. I love this guy. And he was like, yeah, man, he's cool. And then, which spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't finished, Nathan dies at the end of issue four. And I text Dereck and I'm like, dude, what? I'm dead. Like, what is going on here? And he was like, man, I told you. But yeah, that totally blew me by surprise, which is another thing I really love about the book is the playing of expectations. Like the
It was
first couple
so
issues.
quick, and I
Yeah.
think that's important because of this expanded universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they knew very quickly on they had a hit on their hands, and it was going to explode into something more, and it needed to be big from the start. So what Image has done is now they have these supermassive bursts, right? As they're
Yeah.
calling it. They gave us a crossover one shot that was supermassive, right? That's the name. And
Mm-hmm.
it was banger. And now we have Radiant Red, and then this is just a couple of the more recent issues that were on top of my stack that I need to board and bag. A Radiant Red, which is super awesome. She has a super unique story, and it starts in Supermassive.
Yeah. I
Super,
loved the little, I
character.
mean, I don't know if it changes. Like I said, I'm behind, but at least the Radiant Red that's in volume one, I
Yep.
really like the little backstory that we get from
Yep.
her just from volume one. And another shout out, she's from Romeoville, which is another town that was right next to me. So it's just like literally my home in this book.
Now, Rogue Sun starts off in Louisiana, and I love Rogue Sun.
I know you do, and I'm excited to get to that too.
I cannot. I don't want to sound like I'm. God, I don't want to be like super crude and vulgar here, but like I don't want to sound like I'm sucking this comic stick too hard. So I'm gonna try really, really hard not to.
Hey, bro, if
But
that's how you feel.
surprise, surprise, the Venom fan, the Eddie Brock fan, openly admits that they have a thing for broken children inheriting like the problems that came from their broken parents, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm into this like broken long-standing turmoil thing, right? That's a generational story, and Rogue Sun is absolutely that, right? Unabashed, just jumps right into this story on it. You have youthful arrogance, you have old money level arrogance, like fighting against each other in the middle of this family dynamic, right? Like it's this like unwanted, is it a gift or a curse, and what do we do? And yes, you have your burdens, but now you've taken these burdens, and like, are you going to step up to the plate very quickly? And I
Mm-hmm.
really, really like Rogue Sun. It might be my favorite story out of all of them so far.
Yeah.
I think Image absolutely has a hit on their hands with this
Mm-hmm.
entire supermassive verse, and I cannot wait to see where the rest of this goes.
Yeah, same. Like you said, I'm still only on volume one, but in my mind, Higgins can do no wrong. I am fully invested in this universe, and I have no doubt that Rogue Sun, uh, Radiant Red will be just as good as the main Radiant title that's going on right now.
It's the art too. The art is
Mm-hmm.
just superb.
Yeah, it really is. Which, speaking of, who's the artist on this?
Costa and Carey, right?
Yep, Costa. Natalia Marquise on colors, guest colors. Yeah, so shout out to the whole team. They're all killing it, absolutely killing it, from the colors, letters, everything. Go, if you haven't read it, go pick it up. Don't be like me. Don't jump on the train so late, because like I said, this is probably one of the best books out right now, and this is coming from the Marvel shill guy. So
you jump on super late and then spend all your money playing catch up in 2 days flat, like I did.
Yeah,
Welcome.
exactly. And then you can binge like us.
Yeah, it's worth it. Oh,
so
man.
yeah, like I said, so Radiant Black, amazing, absolutely have to go get it. And then the other one that I picked up was, like I mentioned, this The Closet, or The Closet. And this one was actually really good. Like I said, I'm not really in the indie scene very much, but it was refreshing to read a book that was just, how do I say this? Like, it's not connected to anything else. It's not a part of a whole massive universe. It was just a single small story about a kid who is afraid of a monster in his closet. And like, that's kind of it. So I really liked it in that aspect. Like I said, it was a nice kind of breath of fresh air to read something that's just kind of more simple. And also, I will say too, which I never really thought of, because again, I mostly pick up Marvel books, and my pull list is pretty much all Marvel. And one of the huge criticisms that I hear from Marvel these days is the quality of their paper, and that the paper of their books is lack of a better word, shit. And this is
right. Like, now that you're holding other publishing houses' books, how does it feel,
dude? So yeah, that's what I was about to say. So this is a problem that I never really experienced, just because, like I said, all I get is Marvel books. So to me, it's just like, that's just how they are. And I was reading this book, and I will say, like, that is one of the things that I honestly noticed while reading it. As I was flipping through, I was like, damn, these pages, they feel crispy, bro. Like, damn, this feels nice. And I was like, this feels like a solid book. And I gotta say, I I agree with everybody. I never noticed it, like I said, because I pick up mostly Marvel, but I definitely noticed.
Who publishes that?
This is Image.
See, that's exactly what I'm saying, bro. Like, yes, man. Yes,
yeah,
dude.
Like I said, it's very sturdy, and like I said, it definitely opened my eyes to what people have been complaining about, and I definitely agree now.
Image and Boom, to me, probably have some of the best paper when it comes to quality of any set of comics that I've been reading lately. And I read a lot of Dark Horse as well. Image, Boom, Dark Horse, Marvel, some DC here and there these days. And I love the feel of Image and Boom, man. I will gladly pay an extra, like, $1 or so sometimes for some of their stuff for the stories, because I know that it's just quality.
Yeah, like I said, it's a problem that I was kind of ignorant to, but this definitely opened my eyes to it. But besides the quality of the craftsmanship of the book, the story was actually, like I said, it was fairly good. It's a very short, simple story. Nothing insane quite happens, but I think it did the job it was supposed to do, and it made me interested to read another issue. At the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm interested. I would like to see what comes next. So I would definitely recommend The Closet. It's creepy. Like I said, it's just a short story, but I'm definitely interested to see where it goes. I think it'll be a good one.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. That one was on my list, and I didn't end up picking it up. I picked up the new Cyberpunk instead.
Yes, which we got to talk about. So I was gonna pick up Cyberpunk, but the reason I didn't was because I haven't read any of the other ones, and I haven't played the game either.
So that's okay.
Tell me why I messed up.
I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan. So let me break it down for everybody. If y'all aren't aware, the Cyberpunk comics are super easy to get into, because what they are is they are all minis, and they are all connected through the lore of the Cyberpunk universe without you needing to pick up any of the others to get what's going on. So Cyberpunk started as a tabletop role-playing game, right? And the lore from it is huge, and that's what inspired the game. So all of these little comics and stuff that Dark Horse has been producing, all connect to the lore of the cyberpunk universe at different points in time, but you don't need to read each story to understand what's going on in each. So like,
Okay.
my favorite one out of all of them is probably Trauma Team. Wrote by Cullen Bunn. Y'all know I'm a Cullen Bunn shill, absolutely. But Miguel Valderrama paired up with him for the art in this book, and it is just absolutely incredible to me. It follows the trauma team and specifically Nadia, who's a combat medic, and it deals with looking at her PTSD in this world where she watched the person she loved and her entire unit get slaughtered around her. She's the only survivor. Well,
Damn.
she gets cleared to go back to duty, and her first job is to protect the guy who slaughtered her whole last unit and the man she loved, right? Get out of this hell place that's like nobody should be able to get out of there. She's the one in charge of getting him out. It's insane. The art is nuts. It's a crazy look at PTSD, and their stories together do great, right? All this is happening in the cyberpunk universe as what's happening in the game is going on, as opposed to this one that came out a while back from Alessandro Motecchi and Marcin Blacha and team, right? Your Voice is about these people with who do recordings and these like what would be like futuristic podcast level things and crazy hacking, and it's set around the time that the bomb goes off in game and in lore that Johnny Silverhands does, right? So this is set in what would be, I guess, the past compared to this, right? You don't need to worry about how they connect. You'll kind of figure out that, okay, they're in the same universe, but at different points in time as you go. Currently, there's 2 other cyberpunk comics out there that are being printed as we speak. You have My Word, which I'm loving. It follows a particular section of this cyberpunk universe is like underlie from the gangs that are obviously from Hispanic heritage descent, and how that's transitioned through time, and how like this lady used to be like this super assassin lady for them and helped change the streets forever, and now as an old woman they've killed like I think it's her daughter, I could be wrong on that, who relates to her, and so she's just tearing shit up. It's crazy. And we just got from the same person who's writing that, this one just came out called Blackout.
That was the one that I almost picked up.
Bartosz Dizbor's doing the writing, and then the art on this and standard covers Roberto Ricci, colors are Fabiano Mascolo, letters is Frank Shekovic, and I apologize if I'm saying any of these names wrong, guys. But it's interesting. It's about what happens in this super futuristic world where the world's constantly plugged in, right? What happens if the power goes out for 10 minutes? Right?
Damn.
What kind of fallout is there? And you have a guy who helps fix for a company on what's called brain dances, and they're basically virtual dreams you can live in, right? And he helps repair machines and stuff involving those for this company when things go wrong during blackouts. And it's the very first issue is crazy. It ends setting up for a very wild story for these minis. All of these are 4 issues long. All these minis are, so they're super. Like I said, they're super easy to get into. They've been an absolute blast. If y'all are into future punk and cyberpunk kind of tech noir area, get into this stuff, man. It's super easy to get into and it's a blast. And Dark Horse does a good job. They got Cullen Bunn to do my favorite one so far, and I know I'm a Cullen Bunn shill because I'm about to sit here and gas up Basilisk real quick.
Hey, but like, we are in the Cullen Bunn business here, my brother.
Right.
You know that.
The Cullen Bunn business. I don't care what anyone else says to that man. That man wrote some of the favorite stories that got me into comics to this day. We are in the Cullen Bunn business.
And if you're out there, Mr. Bunn, and you're hearing this, our doors open anytime. Please,
I love you so much.
Come and grace us. Yes, we love you.
Thanks so much.
But that's crazy, though.
Is great.
I was gonna say real quick about Cyberpunk, though. I didn't know that it was a tabletop game. That's crazy. Right? I had no idea.
So it's I can't remember the guy's name, but it's actually super important. It's a tabletop role-playing game wrote by an African-American nerd. The reason that a lot of like the future people in it in 2077, right, aren't predominantly white in the future for it is part of it is that's kind of how he envisioned the future would go. And that's how come like a lot, and that's a very prevalent theme in a lot of future punk that's gone back for a long time, right? But it's super interesting how he ties it all in, because he took a lot of his experiences in life and how he wrote the lore for how he would see cultures evolving in this future melting pot.
Yeah.
Right. What would that look like after centuries together? How would it be? So you have in the everyday language, you have Spanish spoken, you have Chinese spoken, parts of Mandarin, right? You have English all thrown into one coagulation kind of thing going on for a language that everybody just naturally throws out in this world. And the lines where cultures influence each other is sometimes harsh, right?
Yeah.
We cut off, and sometimes it's really easy to see like the ebb and flow of how it's gone together. The lore is super in depth. I'm a lore whore, so I love it. And if you guys are lore whores at all, if you're into tabletop role playing games, go pick up the starter tabletop set for like $30 at your local like D&D shop or whatever, and get into it, because the lore is massive.
Hell yeah. I mean, just based off that, I'm about to go do my homework into the lore, because that's freaking awesome.
It's so huge, man.
Hell yeah.
So
but moving
huge.
on, so tell me about Basilisk. Gone back on the bun train.
Back on the, I'm never not on the bun train. Let's call it what it is.
The bun train remember, keeps going.
It's his 50th or 100th or something creator-owned comic, right? I know it's a big deal for Mr. Bunn in that regard and team. Cullen Bunn's doing the writing. Okay, Jonas Scharf, if I'm saying that right, I do believe I am. I could be wrong. I'm not always the smartest guy around, but you know, he's handling the colors, the cover work, if I remember correctly on this. Yeah, and then a bunch more in team. I'm trying to find the page. Alex Gumeres, if I'm saying that correctly. I think so. I'm sorry if I'm not.
Yeah, any mispronunciations, we apologize, and please just feel free to correct us.
Yeah, lettered by Ed Dukeshire. But the art is beautiful in this story. What it is it's about this group of people who get these crazy supernatural powers, and when it happens to them, like obviously they're young, they're fresh, they can't control it, and chaos ensues. Well, one of them breaks off from them all, and the only survivor of like the very first day of this town, right from it all, very early on chases the one girl who let this group down, right, and wants to use her as a weapon to try to take out these others with these crazy supernatural powers, and stop the basilisk from becoming a thing, right, as they're referred to, these gods. And there's this cult that worships them and crazy powers, and apparently as people die, some of the powers can be transferred to others, which can in turn create the basilisk, right, which is what wants to be stopped, except for once one of the chicks figures out that that's what it is, she starts getting crazy. So now you have this girl who left the group, has to team up with a survivor of the group who wants her dead, who's held a gun to her head, trying to use her as a weapon and bait to kill these people who were her friends, by the way. Yeah. Right. Now she has to team up with her to try to stop these people and save the world. And it's total chaos. So there's this cult that follows.
Kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of deal.
Yeah, and there's a lot of religious symbolism to it, right? Particularly with a lot of the colors. There's a guy who has very Norse tattoos all over his back. There's and obviously Chinese references to one, fairy references to another, right? There's a lot of long-term cultural references to other deities in this that for it. Bun and team have really done their homework on a lot of the symbolism, and I'm really excited to see how this goes, where it ties in. We're about 2 volumes in right now. My trade paperback and my volumes on loan to someone right now. It's the 2nd or 3rd volume of it I bought, because every time I loan it to someone, I don't get it back because they end up loving it so much. Yeah. And that's why I buy volumes. I buy volumes of my favorite stories to hopefully get people into comics. If I get it back, great. If I don't, I don't. And I have not got back a single volume 1 of this that I've purchased yet when I've loaned out to people. So it's doing its job.
You're a true man of the people, Gorgon. You're a true man of the people.
Do what I can, friend. I do what I can. I do pick this comic up. The art's just wonderful in it. I'm kind of obsessed with the concept. Pick up the first volume for like $12-15 at your local comic shop. I don't know what they're running on it. See how that does, you guys. I bet it's fantastic.
And if you don't like it, give it to your friend, and then they won't give it back to you.
Exactly.
But no,
man.
I do want to get into Basilisk though. From what you've told me about it, it seems super cool. And like you were saying, how you're a lore whore, I'm also a lore whore, and I love like symbolism and stuff too. Not I wouldn't necessarily say like religious symbolism, but
Right.
I love when someone does their homework on, like I said, like a religion or a culture, and you get that kind of symbolism in a modern day setting. And
Same.
I'm
And
it
it's
sounds like
super
something I
subtle.
would
It's
love,
not in your face.
which is another thing I like.
Same
Hell
thing.
yeah.
Only other real indie I've been reading is Berserker.
I've been reading Berserker too. I'm super far behind on Berserker, but I read, I want to say maybe the first four, maybe
Okay.
five. So like I know what I know it's about. But holy
So,
shit, that book is just, to me at least, the book is just badass. Like
bro,
I wouldn't like give it any Eisner awards for like story or anything, but it's just a
right.
fun ass story of him, like, of Keanu fucking people up. Like,
It
and
is
I'm here for
the
that.
old guard meets Conan plus Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
that's the story, and I know that like it's received a lot of flack from a lot of people online when it came out about how it came out, and that's a whole different topic. We could have a whole issue just about
Yeah.
Berserker and all that on it. And I do gotta say I'm a huge fan. I like how it's done. It's not like Keanu's doing all this on his own. He's got Matt Kent, who's award winning,
Mm-hmm.
helping him write on it. He's got Ron Garney, Bill Crabtree, right, on team doing like artwork, doing the lettering, the coloring. It's well done and it's connected to a bigger picture. It's my understanding we're going to get an anime
I've
and a
heard that
live
too.
action movie with Keanu doing mocap for the anime and being the main actor in the movie on it at some point in time.
Bro,
Uh,
I'm here for it, man. I think that's awesome. Like some
it's
people
kind of
might,
ambitious to jump out to right off the
mm,
bat, and I'm here for it. I love
yeah,
it.
fuck it, man. Let's go. Like, I don't, again, I'm not a huge indie guy, so I'm sure that there's people in the community out there that can speak on this way better than I can. Dereck, obviously, being probably the biggest one. But I'll just say really quick, just my 2 cents with the whole Keanu and the indie, whole aspect. I think my opinion is, why the hell not? I think, if Keanu wants to do a book, why the hell can't Keanu do a book? And to me, it doesn't read like a book of, oh, this is just some celebrity trying to, cash in on the popularity of comics or anything. And I will say too, again, I'm not, the indie scene guy, so take my comments with a little grain of salt. But I kind of think it's dope that, someone like Keanu Reeves, like, he has a shit ton of money. Like, if he wanted to, he could have just been like, oh, I'm going to make a comic, finance the whole thing, and then just, put out whatever. I think it's cool that he went the Kickstarter route and he worked with Matt. And, instead of just being like, oh,
Right.
well, I have this money, I can put this out. It was, okay, well, if you guys would want this, then we'll do it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think that the Kickstarter, the way that they did it, I think it was cool, and it got a lot of traffic to Kickstarter. And in my opinion, I think made it a more legitimate form for people that might not be very into the comic scene. Because I think, I mean, even me, for example, like, again, I'm not a huge indie guy. So before I was very knowledgeable about the whole indie scene, I would see Kickstarters, and I'm not going to lie, part of me feels like, well, how do I know I'm going to get this book? Or how do I know this isn't a scam or that this is legit? And in my mind, like I said, I think that having Keanu do it the way he did brought a lot of attention to the medium, brought a lot of attention to other Kickstarters, and kind of
No,
gave it
sure.
a sort of validity that, that this is a legitimate form of funding a book and getting a book made. Yeah,
I
like I
hadn't
said, that's
considered
just
that.
my 2 cents on it. But I know a lot of people feel very strongly on the other aspect of it. But my thing
Yeah,
is
I'm with
to
you.
get the book out. If it gets in more readers and it gets more people reading books, then that's what I'm gonna proponent
That's the
against.
point of comics, always. And
Exactly.
see,
Yeah.
I'm with you on it in a similar, like, but different vein, right? On the fact that he's Keanu Reeves. He is Keanu Reeves, right?
Keanu, bro.
He has his own motorcycle company, this designer. He's been the star of Cyberpunk. His motorcycles have all been 3D rendered and are in Cyberpunk. His concept models are in the right. The man is John Wick. He is Neo. He's
a nerd.
Dude, he is Keanu Reeves, right? And he could have gone to anybody, any publishing house out there and been like, hey, I know I'm Keanu Reeves. I partnered with Matt Kent. We got the story we want to write with it, and we'd love to publish it through you, right? Mm-hmm. And honestly, probably any publisher out there would have been like, yes, absolutely. Oh my God, you're Keanu Reeves and Matt Kent. Let's do this. Let's make this multi-picture deal. Let's go. Money.
Marvel. No. They would have ate that shit up.
DC even would have ate it up, right? As violent as it is in parts, they would have been like, yes, cut the check. Where's Snyder? Let's have Snyder direct. Let's go.
Yep.
Green light. You know what I mean? But he didn't, right? And he could have gone to Boom and did that and said, hey, let's do this. And they would have probably gladly said, yeah, cut the check. Mm-hmm. But he went the Kickstarter route to see if it was wanted by fans, made sure there was like a demand and stuff before promising this giant deal, going hard into it. And that saved money in the budget to give to some other indie artist at whatever studio he decided to go with. You know, he went with Boom, right? But like the initial funding plus his money in it, like, right, for it, like that's money that could go on to fund other books. Mm-hmm. So like it's not like he took it away from anyone, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm looking at that weird. I don't know. I just feel like I think the way he did it as a celebrity coming in to write a comic, pitch a story, pitch this big deal, this deal with cinema for it attached. I think he went about it probably the best way it could be done. Mm-hmm. With using a larger publishing house.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, and like I said, that's why I don't really understand the criticism. And I think it really just comes down to there's people in every section of the fandom of like we talked about it a couple episodes ago, you know, comic book accuracy and, you know, the technical definitions. And I think, you know, some people in the indie community just get very caught up in the, well, it's Keanu Reeves, so it's technically not an indie. Or like there's even people out there that will say Boom and Image aren't technically indie. So, you know, it comes down to what your definition of an indie book is, I guess, and like how strongly you feel about the classification of an indie comic. But as we talked about before, at least for the sake of this episode podcast, anything not Marvel and DC, we are considering indies. Anything not big two.
Boom. I think that's a pretty easy pejorative deal that most people can be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like I said, you can go deeper into it and you talk to people bigger in the indie community. I'm sure that they will give you very good points on why there's different, you know, why Boom is not as indie as this publisher or, you know, vice versa. But again, at the end of the day, we're just about getting books into people's hands. That's what we care about, and that's what we love to do. So moving forward on indies, though, I think the only one we have left to talk about, which we have to mention, I know you haven't had the opportunity yet, but What Makes a Man from our good friend. Yes, from our good friend Dereck, aka Grimace Wayne, and our other good friend Nate Taylor on the art. This book is awesome, guys. I know obviously there are friends, so there is some sort of bias here, obviously, but I will tell you as unbiasedly as I can, this book is actually very, very good. Like, it is really good. I don't, unfortunately, like I said, I'm traveling right now, so I don't have my physical copy with me. Like I said, this book is honestly very good. Our friend Dereck wrote it. It's it's a Western comic, and it's kind of in the vein of, I would say, like Red Dead Redemption meets Mandalorian. That's kind of my personal description I've been giving it. So
okay,
yeah, it's really good. It follows our main character, who's a cowboy, and he is kind of dealing with sort of existential crisis. He's with this gang of other, you know, outlaws, and you can just tell that the life is wearing on him, and that, you know, it's not necessarily it's not what he wants to do anymore, but you can tell things are changing. And like the title says, it's what makes a man. Seeing this guy kind of struggle with his own internal of like, what should I do? Like, what is the right thing to do? And it's just really good. And it's Dereck's first book, and he comes out the gate really hard. Again, he's my friend, so I'm a little biased, but I read the first time I read it, I was lucky enough to read his scripts early. And I will say, honestly, I was pleasantly impressed with how good it was. Like, I knew it was going to be good, but I was really impressed with how good it was. The dialogue was great. And Nate, who we mentioned earlier, he did our logo for us. He absolutely
and he killed it.
Yes, he kills the logo and he kills this book as well. He does a really good job. It's a lot of black and white, but he uses color in such a smart way. At least I think so. And the way that he uses color in the book just really accentuates the page and really kind of draws attention to what needs to be drawn attention to. And yeah, it's just a really great book. And everyone, I definitely recommend everyone go read it. You can get it on Amazon, and there's also a link to it to where you can read it online for free. I'll be putting that into the description below. But like I said, I definitely recommend it. Everyone, please go check it out. We're talking about all these indie books, so go support an indie artist. I know he'll appreciate it.
Please do. Dereck's a great guy too. I give the man a follow at Grimace Wayne on Twitter. Excellent guy.
Yes, please do. One of the best out there in the community. And he, speaking of indies, he is the indie expert. So you guys got indie questions, go shoot him at Dereck, because he will have the answers for you. But like I said, it's really a great book, as even though they are my friends, if they weren't my friends, I would recommend this book.
I can tell y'all, we've if any people out there are currently reading the Cyberpunk stories, I know you're like me and you're desperately waiting for the final issue of You Have My Word. It feels like it's taken forever. It should be coming soon, because we can now put the trade paperback first volume in our pull list on LeagueOfComicGeeks.com if you use that to pull up your pull list. So it's soon, man. I know it's been like a year, but like, God, it is so good. I don't know what takes so long for these issues to come out, but if you guys are reading it, it should be right around the corner any day now, it feels like, to wrap this up. I'm really excited for the new one, where the new one goes. You've convinced me. I'm gonna have to go pick up Closet now, because that one was on my list to look at picking up, and I just said no, I'm grabbing Cyberpunk today, so I'm gonna have to grab that.
Yeah, like I said, it was really interesting. Like, I wouldn't say it was the best book I've ever read, but like I said, it did its job in making me interested to see what's next.
Well, we're going to get into some more Not Big 2. Believe it, buddy. Believe it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, after this week, it's definitely, I know there's great things not in the big two. Like I said, sometimes I just get too caught up in my Marvel world to, take a break. But I'm very glad that we decided to do this episode, and I was able to take a little break from the big two and give some love to the indies. Because I will agree, like I said, while I'm the Marvel guy, I agree with everyone out there that some of the best stories out right now are indies. And I wouldn't even say some, I'll say probably most of the best stories out right now are coming from indies. And always check out indies, support your indie artists. It's probably the most important thing you can do, even with these big two titles. Even if you are a big two fan, all these writers got to come from somewhere. They got to start somewhere. And how do they start? They start with indies. So please go out there, support your indie creators, back some Kickstarters, find someone working on a book, support them. It's probably the best thing that you could do for the community.
Honestly, fine. And then just get deep into comic Twitter. I promise it'll pop up. Follow us on Twitter. I'm the Last Gorgon.
Search Fat Thor and you'll find me. That's the best way you'll find me. Also follow Grimace Wayne for all your indie updates and the weekly pulls. They're going to be your probably home source for all indies, all indie content. If you're more interested in indies or some of the books that we've talked about, I know that they've talked about Radiant Black before.
So much. Check out the Radiant Black podcast. They come out with every issue, like whether it is anything in the Supermassive verse. They're awesome guys, huge friends of ours, great people. I guess I have to ask now, before we get off here today, now that you've read some indies for it, if you had to write a comic tomorrow, would you rather write for Marvel or would you rather write an indie?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question. And so you're asking if I just wrote a comic, not like, because like if I wrote for Marvel, I would like say like, oh, am I writing Thor? Am I writing Hulk? But this is just if I were to write any story.
Any story tomorrow, one calls you, says, "Hey man, we know you've been wanting to write. You get to write for us. Which do you feel tomorrow would be the way for you to go now that you're jumping into the land of indies a little harder?"
Honestly, I might have to say indie. While I have tons of Thor shit, that I could spew out. I think, to really get a good story out that, like I said, if it was my story that I wanted to tell, I think the best way is indie. Because, like I said, I mean, you're just unrestrained by the bigger world that is, Marvel or DC. So I got to go indie, man. Got to go indie.
All right. That's fair. That's
Hell
fair.
yeah.
That's
Well,
fair.
that's pretty much all we got for you guys this week. We wanted to highlight some indie books and just kind of nerd out with you. As always, I'm Fat Thor. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Gorgon, you have anything else for the people?
I just hope you guys all have a great day. I hope your pull list this week is absolutely fire. I hope your experience on comic Twitter this week is incredible. And I hope we all see you guys on our next episode.
I second that. May all your stacks be fat this week, my friends.
Hey.
I can do this all day.